Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your 2026 annual astrology forecast. I'm practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace, and this year's videos are so special because you're not going to just be hearing from me, but you'll be hearing from 5 incredible astrologers this year, each with mastery in their own area of life. Now, we've come together to give you a full spectrum look at your year ahead so that you can move through 2026 a lot more grounded, a lot more prepared, a lot more excited, and supported. Now, this video is long. It's long and it's rich and it's intentional so that we can go deeper, so that you have something to come back throughout the year and take a look at how it's shaping up with your life. So take your time, grab a cafe, grab a snack, whatever you like. Listen to this podcast style. Just give yourself an opportunity to really receive from us. Let every astrologer pour their knowledge into you and take your time to digest each section. Now, in the description box down below, you're going to find your timestamps for every section and each astrologer with their links as well, in case you want to reach out to them on their website for additional resources. Now, you're also going to find your 2026 astrology tools. We've got a beautiful downloadable guide for you, as well as your digital transit calendar from our friends at Wise Skies Collective. You can use my code Stormie2026 to get a little bit of a discount, and we use that all year long as we are traveling together. All of this is to help you be organized, be empowered, and feel fluent in the language of astrology as you are navigating 2026. So, my beautiful friends, take a deep breath, get comfortable. I've got my tea. Get comfortable, and let's explore 2026 together. Hello, my beautiful Sagittarius soulmates, and welcome to your 2026 annual horoscope. Where Sagittarius, I feel like this year is a year that the cosmos are they're speaking your language, particularly elementally, as we shift the energy from that earth and water back into the space of fire and air. So we've had a real good year for sure, 2025, looking at that earth air influence, and it could have been a bit heavier, pulled you a bit down more, pulled you a bit more inward, depending on, of course, where these are happening in your personal chart as well. But there was definitely a need for a lot more emotional excavation to be going on. And this year is much more of a burst of momentum. There's some drive, there's some clarity, there's inspiration to move. And I think that your fire energy plus your optimistic energy is very much so interested in that. Because when the sky fills with fire and air, it's naturally an activation and it will give that speed. So I'm very curious to see what you are going to do. Now, keep in mind, we are talking about the Sagittarius forecast in the general. All of these things come down to you getting your own personal chart, either being your own astrologer or seeing an astrologer to really see how these are unfolding for you. But as we're beginning the year, we've got Jupiter, your ruling planet, still traveling through the vibration of Cancer, where it's been exploring so much about emotional security, family, foundations, where do you derive what you consider to be home, right? These have been really, really important stories as you've been experiencing them in general. And where do you expand this area? Now, as we're going to begin this year, we have your ruling planet Jupiter still traveling through the vibration of Cancer. And while it is lighting up your 8th house space, and it has been, it's still got this symbolism of looking at, home, family, real estate, property. It's a very 4th house, a very family, emotional security. Where are your foundations? What is true home and nurturing for you? But it's been doing that in the 8th house lens of intimacy and assets, where you're genuinely sharing, having a vulnerability, things around your finances, debt, taxes, transformation, things having to do with sex and sexuality. There's been an expansion in how do you feel safe in these areas of your life. Now, as we get mid-year, we're going to see that Jupiter shifts into the vibration of Leo, and this will start to light up your 9th house space. It has not been here for 12 years. So when you look back in your life 12 years ago, you have a little bit of the story to start to see how this is playing out in terms of your publishing, marketing, broadcasting your world beliefs, your world view, your perspectives on what makes life worth living, right? Things in religion, things international travel, business, legal. There's a very expanded out higher education view. And all of it here will be about coming home to yourself. What are your current worldviews in this area of your life? Now, we're also going to have the South Node traveling in this area as well. But because it's still fire, I think that there's an acceleration here. It's an acceleration of growth and opportunities. And you will be tasked with saying, what do I really believe here? But then how does what I believe actually benefit the whole as well while staying aligned with what's in my spirit? So that's going to be a very interesting thing to see. As we're making this shift from that water to earth to fire and air, we need to look at the beginning of the year and what's coming in. Right away in January, we've got Neptune stepping back into the vibration of Aries. In February, we'll bring Saturn back into Aries. And then on February 20th, they'll come together in a conjunction. This is pretty meaningful because, first of all, it's lighting up the fifth house area of your chart: joy, pleasure, play, children, taking a risk on something. It's a powerful area of the chart, and it's also highly creative, highly passionate. There's a lot of courage that's going into this. But Saturn and Neptune here are saying, yes, you're going to create something creative and meaningful, but it has to be purposeful and it will take you some time. You're going to spend at least the next 2 years working on this. But it coming together at this 0 degrees Aries point, although it's accelerated, it is something that you're going to put your spirit and your back into. And it's exciting to see where you're going to create and not let fear hold you back under this particular energy. Then we will see in April that Uranus is going to shift into Gemini. It's already been here. You got a piece and a taste of it last year in 2025 as it was lighting up your seventh house space of conscious, chosen, one-on-one significant relationships. So this whole era, the next 7 years of your life are going to be really dedicated to paying attention to the evolution of your relationships. As you bring air into the system of your relationships, new ideas, new people, innovative ways to think about relationships, collaboration, some things about relationships that are really heartbreaking to you. You go, oh my God, because they hit reality is really what it is. It hits reality instead of just the idea, right? So expect changes, expect new people to be coming into your life, new connections, romantic, professional. Both of those fronts will certainly be covered. Now, we cannot talk about this year without looking at what the eclipses are going to bring in. First of all, the nodes are going to shift position when we get to July. If you are following the true node, you're going to see that north node moves into Aquarius July 26th. Now, if you are following the mean node, you'll start to hear about how the node is actually shifting around July 17th. So just be sure of which node you are listening to so that when you hear 2 different dates, you're not freaking out going, Stormie is over here on one, okay? I'm really not. So when we see the nodes switch, though, they will be in Aquarius and into Leo. This is highlighting your thinking, speaking, idea, communication houses. So as we're feeling these changes, that north node in Aquarius is going to push you, Sagittarius, to develop new communication, new studies, new skills, a new network, but it is about refining your voice for a whole. Okay, that south node is more of the idea that your words are not just for you. Your creativity is not just for you. It's going to ask you to release outdated worldviews that you've had about what you think and step more into the world and how you impact it. It's really an interesting dynamic, and I can't wait to see as we do our individual videos how you feel like this bit of destabilization as it comes here is really starting to shape you. Now, with that comes the eclipses. So we're going to begin the year with a solar eclipse that is going to be in the vibration of Aquarius. So as this brilliant resetting of our energy comes around and it lights up your third house space, it's going to be about bringing beginnings to this new way of thinking, this new way of communicating to a whole, sharing your ideas in bigger spaces. It's really what you add to the whole. There can be different conversations for you around contracts, siblings, little projects. Maybe some of you are writing a book, you're building that website. It's about sharing the information. When we get to March, we're going to see a lunar eclipse that's happening in the vibration of Virgo. Now, this is a fellow mutable energy, and you have been working on this for over a year. So it's not that this is necessarily new, but it is time to do a finishing in this energy. Now, this is lighting up your 10th house space. So within the next 6 months, you will be likely leaving some form of career space or some form of title that you have carried for a very long time. Maybe you're that student that's getting ready to graduate as we get to May, right? Or maybe you were single and now you're getting ready to be married, right? You're changing the direction of what we call you in public. As we get to August, our last two eclipses, our new moon will be in that vibration of Leo, marking that new beginning in purpose, in travel, worldview, international ideas that you have. And I cannot wait to see how many of you pick up and decide that you're going on some kind of a trip, or you decide that you're going to share your information with students that live countries away from where you have information to share. As we close the year in terms of eclipses, we will have a lunar eclipse that is happening in Pisces. And I think that this one is more about bringing a finishing to emotional healing, to spiritual understanding that you've been working on, particularly around your home, around your family. It's like you're able to release some kind of chapter to the past, from the past, and actually be free with it. So keep me posted in the comment section down below. I'll be traveling with you all year, of course, but keep me posted down below what this is looking like for you. Now, the last transit I want to talk about and bring your attention to before I pass you on to beautiful Colin to talk about your relationships for 2026 is that Chiron will be coming into Taurus. And for some of you, you'll be heading into your Chiron return, very much so a midlife transit. Okay. Some of you will be having babies who are coming in while Chiron is in Taurus. However, what it's bringing in for you, Sagittarius, is these ideas about your health routines, about your wellness, your daily life, having a schedule that is solid and bears fruit and is nourishing to you. And what it also does is it brings up the story with Chiron being that wounded healer of wounds from the past, wounds about your body, about your fitness, about your productivity, about needing to work or overwork in order to be valuable, stories around money, right? As Chiron is going to do its travel here, and we're just at the beginning of it, the healing around building a life that really supports you and makes sense in a nourishing daily routine, health routines that are nourishing to you, things that are more about building abundance rather than draining you, will be all things that we'll be working on as we experience this Chiron energy. Now, it will be a big deal for those of you who are having that Chiron return, so stay tuned because they're going to definitely be talking about that here. All right, my beautiful Sagittarius friends, I look forward to traveling with you all year long. So please make sure you stay tuned to the channel. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, I would love to have you here. So jump on in. Now let me pass you over to Colin so that we can talk about your relationships for the year, because the quality of your life really comes from looking at the quality of your relationships. Bye, Sagittarius.
Welcome to your 2026 Love Horoscope. We love having you here on Stormie Grace's channel. And speaking of love, no matter your zodiac sign, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. So Sagittarius, I want to talk to you about the quality of your relationships this year. Because starting in April, you will experience a very extensive transformation in your relationship sector when Uranus returns to Gemini. So technically, Sag, it actually started for a brief moment a little bit earlier. So from July 7th to November 8th of 2025, Uranus, which rules transformation and spontaneity and surprise, transited Gemini for the first time in 84 years. So you are experiencing potentially, well, yeah, definitely, a once in a lifetime transit regarding relational transformations. And I suspect you were provided with a little bit of context clues in terms of what those changes will be from July 7th to November 8th of last year. Now, on April 26th of this year, Uranus returns to Gemini, where it will stay until 2032, August 3rd, 2032 to be exact. And so, Sag, if you have needed relational change, it's coming. is going to be here from 2026 to 2032. So, let's scale and sustain those changes appropriately and space it out in terms of expectations a bit. But you will absolutely have very much a different relational scenario from now until then. I absolutely believe that. Now, in terms of what the key theme here is for Uranus and Gemini, Sag, I want you to, because Gemini is your polarity sign, meaning it's the opposite sign, it is an invitation for you to manage paradox and polarity carefully. So, one of my favorite ideas in relational psychodynamics is something called relational dialectics. So, it's a communications theory by Leslie Baxter and Barbara Montgomery. And what it determined is that contradiction, opposition, and polarity are the fundamental forms of relating. So, what does that mean? That every relationship straddles the contradiction between I both want to be left alone and I want to be with you at the same time, autonomy and connection. The other is predictability and novelty. Every relationship needs predictability, safety, familiarity, and consistency in order to have an anchor, but it also needs a wave. So it needs novelty, mystery, surprise, intrigue, the edge of the seat, the excitement, right? And then the final relational dialectic is self disclosure versus privacy regulation. So, in order for us to be in right relationship with others, we must reveal the truth of who we are when appropriate, right? And we must also respect other people's right to have an interior world without us demanding vulnerability, because vulnerability is an invitation, it's not a mandate. So, privacy regulation gives everybody involved the ability to not have to speak or share until they're ready. Those are three of the most common relational dialectics that Leslie Baxter and Barbara Montgomery put forward in their work. And I suspect, Sag, that you're going to have to hold a dialectic of some kind in order to strengthen the quality of your relationships. Okay? Now, that's taking shape until, as I said, April 26th of this year until August 3rd of 2032. But in terms of the chapter that is this year, which could accelerate relationships, which happens once a year, it is the new moon in Gemini, which is taking shape on, let me make sure I got this date right, June 14th. Okay, so that's your moment to say what kind of relationships you want to be in, what kind of partner you want to be. And then the full moon in Sag 2 weeks later. So let me make sure I got this right. Oh, no, excuse me. The full moon in Sag is 2 weeks prior. So it's May 31st. That's your moment to maybe wrap up some loose ends that need to be wrapped up in order for you to step into the relationship that you deserve. Okay. And what I've been doing is in every video explaining one thing I love about each zodiac sign. And for Sag, I'm going to say it's their generous assumptions. So what do I mean by that? To be in relationship with Sagittarius is to be in relationship with somebody who, in the absence of really clear data, will assume generosity about my cognition, my emotion, or my behavior. They lead with good faith. They don't assume that I'm out to get them. They, in fact, assume that I'm here to help them. And watching Sag assume that I'm doing the best that I can and other people are doing the best they can has been nothing short of life changing, because I don't always believe that to be true. I believe that other people are trying to piss me off on purpose. And Sag has been like, no, they're not. And they're not even really thinking about you that much. So get over it. And to then see a whole new experience with life, because I'm assuming generously now too, as much as I can in their inspiration and honor, has truly changed the quality of my life. So that's that, Sag. Okay. Your opposite sign, Gemini, loves you too much. And I hope you have an amazing 2026. Bye.
Hello, Sagittarius, and welcome to your financial forecast for 2026. Now, you probably know that yours is one of the fire signs. You probably also know that fire has to be regulated. It can go from being a match to a forest fire. Finding regulation and finding thermostat is part of the Sagittarius financial quest. Now, in 2026, the two planets, Saturn and Neptune, together move into another of the fire signs, where they're going to accent the risk and speculation area of your solar chart. Now, they don't always work terribly well together. When they do, It's when they've got long-term projects in mind. So don't imagine that this year is going to be one of let's get rich quick. You have to play for the long term. The good news is that with Saturn moving through that very creative part of your solar chart, there's high probability that you could lay down some really good foundations. Yours is a sign that thinks beyond the norm. You think globally. So you can reach out and see trends, social, economic, and political trends. And it's very likely that even before the end of 2026, you'll have identified a sector that is about to advance big time. So though you don't get the profits in 2026, they are coming. Now, another factor is that the planet Uranus, which made a brief foray into your opposite sign during 2025, moves there properly in April of 2026, and it's going to be there for a few years. Now, that suggests that partners, those closest to you, will be ready to branch out into new areas. Doing that together should and could feel exciting. The handbrake, and everybody needs a handbrake, comes in the form of Chiron, the planetoid that orbits between Saturn and Uranus, moving into one of the Earth signs. It does that just temporarily between June and September and makes its proper journey there next year. Now, when it does, globally, the world is likely to have to really think about thrift management. For you, just for a few months, it would be advisable to think again about your long-term estate planning. Now, that becomes really super important throughout September and October when doing repairs in the home and investing in yourself and what keeps you safe, warm, dry, and your health things becomes absolutely the top priority. 2026 is a financial year with a difference. If you want to look for some really good news, it comes in the form of Jupiter, your ruling planet, moving into another of the fire signs from June. Now, it stays there all the way through until 2027. So although we know that the middle of the year might be a little testing and demanding, we also know that by the time we get to October and having put those safety nets in place and done the necessary repairs, that you could start to build up a good solid fund for the adventures you'll surely want to have at the beginning of 2027. Enjoy your year.
Hey there, my Sagittarians, and 2026 Astro Health. So what can we do? What are a few transits to have a look at that can help support us and have a healthier year? Now, there's a million transits we could have looked at. I might have looked at like 30 before I got it down to 3 or 4 for each sign. But let's have a little go at what we need to focus on. Everybody needs to focus during the Mercury retro. So everybody got this one. Yes, they happen every year, usually 3, sometimes 4. But the interesting thing this year with Mercury retrograde is they're all in water signs. Last year, a lot more fire. So maybe easier this year with it in water, but it also depends on your chart. But Mercury retrograde in water, let me back up. I love using Mercury retrogrades, almost like a New Year's resolution, but I don't like resolutions. It's like a chance 3 times a year to remember to slow down and take stock of what your goals were and what have you been doing towards those, or what were you trying to create or change or think or feel. Resting, that's right, Sagittarians, resting, and then moving forward into the next phase. So I love to kind of break the year up into those. You know, as a mutable fire, you get excitable, you love lots of change, you're great at taking on lots of new things, but not sticking with it. So I love you guys, or people, sorry, I love you all to use this as your little reassessment period, you know? February, March, it's in Pisces. This is a great time to really look at sleep habits, circadian rhythms. What are you actually doing to stay in rhythm with your body? The immune system can get a little bit wobbly at this time. The nervous system, Mercury, does have a big crosstalk to the immune system. And if the nervous system gets too stuck in sympathetic dominance, which Sagittarians are very good at doing, fight, flight, rather than digest, relax, it will also really push the immune system. So by supporting the nervous system, you're supporting that gorgeous immune system. June, July, it's in Cancer, which is quincunx to you. It's a little bit awkward. It's a reset. I like to think of this Mercury retro. It's a reset about what are you eating? What are you thinking about what you want to be eating and different eating styles? Do you want to change it up? Maybe it's a great time to journal and write down about eating and mood and habits. Yeah, just a little break there in what's going on with your digestive system and how you're nurturing yourself. Not always with pleasures and extravagance and doing it big, but actually what is good and healthy for you, my Saggies. Yeah, if you find yourselves emotionally eating and just looking for food for big energy hits, it's a great time this year to focus on protein at every meal, especially protein at breakfast. Sagittarius often forget to eat breakfast, or they'll try to do intermittent fasting till later in the day. But the truth is, breakfast and a good protein breakfast, amazing to stabilize your blood sugar levels, which all the mutable signs can have a bit of trouble with, and stop you from craving sugars and things like that later in the day when you're dipping in energy. October, November retrograde for you. You know, that retrograde, if we were doing solar or sun sign astrology, actually is your 12th house. So, you know, being in Scorpio, it's about detoxification, release, deep emotional processing. This is the 12th house, a little hard to tap into at times. But to remember, the month before your birthday is often quite weak immune system wise. This is a 12th house thing. Lower energy, lower immune system. This Mercury retrograde is the great one to take your foot off the accelerator. You don't have to put on the brakes, but really pause, relax, rejuvenate, release. It's not a bad time for a detox for you. Get that liver really happy and come into that birth solar return month. That would be, it's going to be, if you take that time out in October, could be an amazing year ahead health-wise for 2027. Saturn from Pisces to Aries. I know it's already been Aries, but it went back to Pisces and now it's coming back to Aries. So this is trining your sign. This is, you know, form and structure. This is connective tissue, ligaments, tendons, bones, skin, skeleton. It's a great time to look at the nutrition to support that. This is trining you, so it's a great time to build and focus, whether it's having bone broths or collagen. High vitamin C foods help with collagen, looking at your bone density. Vitamin D is actually as important for bone density as calcium. Really looking at the nutrients that are great for your form and structure because you absorb them. You know, Saturn helped you to build these structures, although Saturn can create issues with absorption. But with the trine, I'm not as worried. It would be more of a square, I'd be worried. So again, Saturn is also discipline. Sorry for laughing. Discipline, my Jupiter ruled sign. And it's Saturn in Aries is a good time to lay down some rules and regulations for yourself in areas you go too big. You know, I always talk about when Sagittarius come in and like nutritionally for like restrictive diets, I'm always like, oh, we're going to figure out how to gamify this for you. But with Saturn coming into Aries, it's a great time for the fire signs, but especially you Saggies, to find some boundaries and structure with your health and how you're taking care of your physical body. You might find your energy levels a little bit low. I mean, Saturn going into Aries, we all need to be supporting our adrenals. And then we have Neptune coming in following it, which can be a bit of dissipation of energy as well. So really supporting the adrenals, be it through beautiful herbal medicines, as long as they're not interfering with medications you're on, but your B vitamin foods, your magnesium foods, getting enough sleep, finding some routine. It doesn't have to be that routine. You can still go have lots of fun, but yeah, really, I just feel like Saturn coming in there is going to allow you some better form and structure. Just don't let the Neptune following through to derail it overall. I like to think of the Neptune Saturn coming through. It's like actually bringing form and structure to spirit and the sacred and manifesting it into the physical this year. And as a fire sign and that happening trine you, I think it's a great way to bring in with this form and structure that I'm wishing for you and your health. Maybe bring in, find the adventure and the spirit and the meaning in doing those routines and rituals. Yeah. So finding the sacred in the physical science of what you need to be doing. That's my wish for you, my Saggies.
Hey Sagittarius, welcome to your 2026 Spiritual Development Forecast. My name is Tiffany, and I'm so glad you found the Stormie Grace channel. If we haven't worked together before, I write the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar, and we have a code for you guys if you'd like to have a discount and try the product out. So welcome to 2026. My background in astrology started in 2000 after I had a near-death experience, and that's after my sun in Scorpio progressed into Sagittarius. And so astrology really gave me an understanding of the divine timing of my life and the divine timing of the different seasons that we all go through. I have a master's in health psychology. I am a yoga instructor, and I studied in India, which was a really fun part of my life. I have Sag rising, so I relate to a lot of you guys watching the Sagittarius video. And yeah, my background is in event planning. I've got a publishing company, and I'm a beekeeper in West Texas. So at this stage of life, I'm really enjoying just being with the bees on the adventure and looking at the spiritual development forecast. So I will share my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. I think that this is going to be a year where we're getting themes of the wilderness, getting themes of exile and return, and getting themes of being really these periods of life where we feel alone, but we're not alone. And how I think about it is much like my bee swarms. So the bees will split themselves, and the old queen will fly off with half of their population. And where they're going, they have a scout bee that has figured out where they're going to go. But where they're going, there's no resources built. They're not moving into a house. They're not moving into a shell. They're having to start from scratch and create wax and make comb and build a house and bring forage in to create honey. And there's a moment of frustration of like, what have we done? We just left our good thing for something that's completely unknown. That's the vibe I'm getting for 2026. So there will be some defining moments. We want to look at how our soul is evolving. We want to look at the sky map to see what is going on, what lessons and themes are available. But every transit is an invitation. Everyone is an invitation to understand your own soul and then the eternal truths, not the temporal stuff, not the temporary stuff, not the material stuff, but the metaphysical stuff that's underneath. So what is spiritual astrology? It's not asking just what's going to happen to me or when's the best time to do this thing. It's it's metaphysical. It's beneath the surface. It's what is God teaching me in this season of life? What is my relationship like with my creator, with the afterlife, with spirit, right? And I get asked a lot, what's the purpose of life, right? So I don't know the answer and you don't know the answer, but we're on the search, right? We're on, like Viktor Frankl wrote about, the man's search for meaning. And for me, the answer right now is just to glorify the creator and to just be in awe of the wonder of this incredible world that we get to live in, that we get to steward. So one of my very good friends reminded me that prayer transcends planets. And I like to put that into my spiritual development talks because you don't have to get bogged down by the map. You can always transcend the map and go straight up for prayer and meditation. Our guiding light is the creator, not the created, right? So your 2026 planetary ecosystem, we're going to look at your age, we're going to consider the wilderness cycle, and then we're going to break it down into quarters and month by month. The ancient Greek word for wanderer is where we get our word planet from. So planet, wandering star. And you, Sagittarius, were born under a different star, right? You were born to be a seeker, to be an adventurer, to get the truth, to enjoy life, to enjoy the different cultures and the different flavors and the different textures. That's what you're born for, right? That's what you love to do. And so for you to enjoy this forecast, all we need to know is your sun sign. We already know that. We need to know how old you are. And I want you to start considering what personal deserts that you have been through, much like the bees on their journey into the unknown. Where have you been on a journey into the unknown this year? And just really call that up to your heart space as you enjoy the forecast. A third question that I want you to really consider, third, fourth, fifth, the last question I want you to consider is, what do you think the creator calls you? You have an identity with your creator that is separate from your job, separate from your role, separate from your name, and it's something really special. And once you start standing in that identity, your whole world will change. So you can study your midheaven with your astrologer and get tips and ideas. But this is just something that you get as a direct download, a direct hit that helps you understand who you are, the truth of your identity with your creator. So these are two questions that I'm asking for all of us for 2026. For you, Sagittarius, here's a message from Spirit, the seeker. You are the seeker. I gave you a hunger for truth. You travel far through thought or land to find meaning. Let your joy and wisdom bring others closer to me. Your gift is vision, spiritual joy, teaching, and an expansion of faith. How perfect is that? Okay, so how old are you, Sagittarius? You just look at this wheel, you find your age, and then you dial it down into the house down here. So if you're 68, 56, 44, you're in a ninth house year. If you are 25, 37, 49, 85, you're in a second house year. So just grab a screenshot of this so that you can take some of these themes as you're journaling about the year ahead. And same for this screen, take a screenshot and see if you're any of these special ages for the life cycles of the soul. I love teaching life cycles of the soul because it shows us a map that at certain ages, we do have different planetary aspects that are like rites of passage and that we all go through. We go through them differently based on what sign they're in, what planets they're close to, our life experience, all of those things. But still, you can't deny that something was changing for you around the age of 28 to 30, right? You can't deny that something interesting was happening for you around the age 18. And so there are these special life cycles. So I want you to take a screenshot of that and study up on it. So 2026 is a 1 year in the numerology. It's a year of focus. It's fresh starts. Numerology goes in 9-year cycles. And so we're just finishing up 9 years. So we're integrating something that we've been studying, tools along the way that we've picked up, things that we don't want. And we've been working towards an ending point in 2025 where enough is enough, or we have what we need. And now the 2026 is a fresh start year. So that's why I think that we're going to be in a little bit of a wilderness, that we're going into an unknown territory with the astrology for sure. And wilderness is not a luxury, but a necessity of the human spirit. We have to go there. We have to be in those moments of deep curiosity and wonder about what's next, Quarter one, out of nothing something. This is a seed planting quarter. Quarter two is about rebirth, and the birth process is not necessarily easy. There's a squeeze involved, right? Um, Q3, this is going to be when we're more in that wilderness phase, like what's going on here? How do we navigate this area? We're not sure. And then Q4 is going to be more about the harvest time, resting and bringing back what has been lost, what we have forgotten along the way, and coming home, a lost and found, a coming home, spiritual homecoming. So as we start in Q1, out of nothing, something comes, right? Out of nothing. We plant a seed. This is a new moon feeling, right? It's a darkness. There's a newness. We're not sure if we've planted a sunflower or an oak, but good things are coming. We're just in that dark period, that darkness meaning like the unknown, the subconscious period. During this quarter, we'll have 2 eclipses, and we're going to be surrendering, fasting, clearing space, making room, right? Not building, launching, taking on more. We're making room. It's still an emptying period. Your journal prompt is, what new foundation am I building with prayerful direction? So this vibe of co-creation going on. January is a 2-month and a 1 year. So Sagittarius, this could be new beginnings in your relationships, but what relationships? And how does the new beginning start, right? It's never out there externally. It's always an inside job. So how I am in relationship to everything, the garden, the pets, the associations, the leaders, the employees, the volunteers, the special partners, the parents, the children, the aunts, how I am in relationship to any of that will give me a glimpse of how I am. So you are the common denominator, right, in all of your relationships. And that's what can be fresh and new, your perspective. If you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning in a while, I would recommend that. January, pump the brakes, slow down, feel it, take less. Mercury squares Neptune, and that's, to me, the gate of surrender. What are you surrendering to? Knowing it all, having to have all the info, having to have all the details, having all of the appointments and all of the sessions. And we aren't owed everything. We aren't owed all the answers. We don't have to know it all. And so we can stop fighting. We can stop just that need to have all of the data, right? We can lean into faith a little bit, and that's what that square to Neptune is going to provide, this opportunity to jump off the diving board and feel that exhilaration, that experience of life that's like, are you ever going to hit the water, right? Venus, the Sun, Mars, all oppose Jupiter and square Chiron, and Chiron's in 22 degrees of Aries. So I pulled out the Sabian symbol here, and you'll see those throughout the presentation. The Sabian symbols usually give, or in my practice, they give another layer of experience or ideas of how the astrology is playing out. And so here in January, we have a woman in pastel colors, somebody who's inviting, soft, kind, angelic, warm, carrying a heavy and valuable but veiled load. So she's got goods. She has experience. She has traveled the world. She has heavy and good stuff, but it's under something. So it's like she doesn't want you to see it, so to me, it's like, well, how can we work this into the astrology? Are you trying to be a light and you're not really full of light right now, and you're actually a little bit tired? Are you taking too much with you and it's time to distribute and be generous and understand that it's not our things, that we're just stewards of the things and the money and the time? Is it time to put something down and not take it with you into 2026? So for you, Sagittarius, this is a creative grind. Chiron is going to show you how wounds turn into the healing, right? And we're going to find that pain to pleasure moment for you guys. So I want you to be, yes, slow down. Yes, pump the brakes. Yes, don't take too much in, and find some creative moments for yourself in January. How can you think about this differently? How can you have a new experience? Do you have time to just do some arts and crafts and play a little bit? In February, I want you to stay open-minded. It's a 3-month and a 1 year, and this will blend and pull and extract from your creative focus from January as well. We have an eclipse in 28 degrees of Aquarius, and that's going to mean sudden social shifts. Saturn and Neptune, the big conjunction is happening in February, and many astrologers have been excited about this moment, but we've been feeling it all of 2025. There is a spiritual turning point. It's in 0 degrees of Aries, the beginning, the babyest sign of the zodiac, right? The very, very beginning point. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction happens there in our lifetime. How interesting and curious is that? So there's some new spiritual direction, but it has been felt and been felt and been felt. And maybe you'll have a big old gong crash aha moment on the 20th. Let's see what happens. Circle the 22nd, 222 is a jackpot day, good for love and money. And then know that in February, Mercury will retrograde into Pisces while Mars squares Uranus. Very unpredictable waters that we're swimming in February. And that's why maintaining a creative focus is going to be really helpful. For you, Sagittarius, I would say, communication clarity, just say what you mean and mean what you say, and check in with yourself. That's the point of the spiritual development forecast, right? So it's more about like, do I want to check in with myself and have a new experience when it comes to the way that I'm communicating for Sag, right? So are you saying 2 o'clock and you mean 4 o'clock? Are you letting time get away with you? Are you not so great with your time management? Are you using time as a way to control and time, I guess, control yourself and perhaps other people that you're telling your time commitments to? Is it something more, is there something deeper to that? Is there something for you to understand and look at? But this communication clarity, from a spiritual development perspective, comes from us, comes from the inside out. So where could I be more clear, right? Where could I be more clear? In March, the eclipse happens in Virgo. And at the beginning of March, during this eclipse, we've got Mars, masculine energy, in Pisces, feminine water energy, and then Venus, feminine receptive energy, in Aries, pointed fire energy. And there's lots of juxtapositions going on with the divine feminine and divine masculine interplay. March is a 4-month, it's in a 1 year, so this is about being solid, and it will really, again, pull from your February experience of clear communication. So now that things are clear, now that you have this sober mindset, things will start to make more sense as March rolls around. Like we're getting to the end of that new moon feeling where it's like, okay, now I'm ready to do something about this, whatever this is. And for you, it may be something to do with your job, your career. You may be seeing a pivot available, opportunities open up for you, something to do with work, especially with this Virgo eclipse. It helps us see what's not working within the workforce, the working class, the jobs, the jobs, the day in, day out. It's also part of our health and our healthcare systems. It's also part of our herb gardens. And so you could have a career focus a career shift that focuses on plants, planting trees, herbs, saving the endangered species herbs. Virgo rules small pets, it rules data, it rules analysis. And so there are many ways that this could play out for you specifically, depending on where 12 Virgo is in your chart. By the end of the month, we'll have equinox, the seasons will shift, and Mercury will go direct. Anytime an outer planet goes direct, you just want to slow down the day before, the day of, and the day after. So as you see Jupiter direct or retrograde, or any of the planets direct or retrograde, you'll notice in the energy if you feel as tired as I do. Okay. So, seasonal foods for you this time of year, Sagittarius. You want to maybe play on the rosemary herb, and sweet potatoes. You just roast your you like slice your sweet potatoes up. Of course, you clean and scrub the outsides. I like to leave the skin on. You roll them in oil, you salt and pepper them, and then sprinkle them with rosemary. So they're in these nice little slices, and you bake them in the oven. And man, they turn out so good. Such a nice treat, especially this time of year. If that's not your jam, check out some of these other recipes. Okay, Q2, this rebirth feeling, this like, okay, this freshness, I'm ready to go. There's a squeeze involved with the birth, right? With the birthing process. And so for you guys, I want us to consider discernment and to really know what is the voice of your calling versus the voice of your ego. That's what discernment I'm talking about. So stay rooted in prayer while your life is accelerating. Stay rooted Where's your big toe? Sink into the earth, find that rooted feeling, and then grow from there, right? Bloom where you're planted. So where are you called to grow in faith and not fear? The voice of fear is not your voice. It's not God's voice. It's not the voice of your spirit calling you forward. The voice of fear is not you. So you can separate from that and refuse it, right? You can refuse it and you can go forward in faith with discernment and trust. Takes practice. It's building a muscle. April's busy. Sorry for the busy screen. It's a 5 month. It's chaotic energy. It's scattered. We tend to lose our focus and be pulled in a million different directions. We wish we could be at all the places at one time. It's in a 1 year, so just come back to your focus. Come back to what matters. We need the banks of the river. We need rules, structure, order, discipline in order to have creative flow with the waters, the creative waters of Neptune. So Mars, Saturn, and Neptune and Mercury are all in within 2 to 7 degrees of Aries. They're in a conjunction. And I want to tell you to be careful while you're traveling in April. I'm traveling in April. It's okay. But I want you to be very mindful of how you leave the house, of what territory you're checking into, all of that. This indicates to me a spiritual vision, Mars conjunct Neptune. I have that in Sagittarius in my chart in the first house, so I have a lot of appreciation for that particular aspect. But there's always going to be a positive and a challenging side to each of the planets and each of the aspects. So best possible case here, we've got this spiritual warrior energy. We have clear vision. We're going forward with faith. Or worst case would be we're following a misguided crusader. So reminder that you're not following men, people, humanity, that you're seeking something that is metaphysical, that is your creator, that sometimes flows through us, but is not the people, like the people of the world, right? We're all, we can be very disappointing creatures, can't we? So we have to look ahead at the light instead of the individual. So Mars conjunct Saturn, that's the malefics working right beside each other. I think that there's going to be some tension. Uranus re-entering Gemini. Uranus is unpredictable. It is trend setting. It is cutting edge. It's technology. And Gemini rules our siblings, our neighborhoods, our close people, our conversations. It rules the chat. It rules the group chat. It rules, community banter. Gemini also rules wrists, shoulders, hands, lungs. Gemini rules our nervous system, our mind, the way that we're thinking through things that courses through our body, the nervous system, like the brain of the whole body. And then I also have some like general themes listed for you here. So Sag in April, I want you to focus on your relationships. This is a glance back as to what you were considering and thinking through in January, and rework some things, take some inventory and check back in. The story of the starfish is that there was a boy on the shore of the ocean, and he sees all these starfish coming in, and they're all washing up on the shore and they're dying. And he starts throwing one back, and then he throws another one back, and the old man comes up and he says, "You can't save them all." And he says, "Well, I can save that one." So in April, don't be so scattered. Don't try to save them all. Come back for the one. Stay focused on the one, right? Do what you can in front of you. In May, it's a 6 month, and I like the 6 because it has to do with nesting, calming down, coming back to your home, making your home beautiful. Maybe you change the sheets or the decor, or do something that feels like just a nesting moment. It's your sanctuary. It's important. Where you live is important, right? So cooler heads prevail. We've got a big plutonic month in May, and that's why that's as part of that rebirth feeling, the squeeze. Pluto digs underground and spits things back up. I do feel like Pluto represents buried treasure and gold, and especially stuff that we haven't been aware of that we're now made aware of. So Mercury and Chiron are going to square Pluto. Pluto's going to retrograde, and then Mars is going to square Pluto retrograde. So to me, that's a lot of tension in the sky as well. We might see like that in the news. There could be some things in the media that are uh, like kind of decoy, or it's like look over here energy, but there's something else going on. And so I want you to just stay in your discernment, like we talked about for this quarter. So what's real, what's not real. And you have a built-in knower. You have a built-in BS, what is it, transmitter, knower. You know BS when you see it, Sagittarius, right? Because you know what truth feels like in your body and in your mind. And so just keep checking in with yourself. Um, this is another opportunity for you to improve your communication skills, and it's for you, you know? So the more sober you can be with your communication, the better you're going to feel. So just working on that honesty, that integrity, and meaning what you say, and not having to sugarcoat something, but also saying whatever it is with kindness. So there's something going on within the lines of communication that got twisted up for you, and you're getting to clear that up. And it could be a look back in the past. It could be just as simple as dropping the rope. It could be telling your loved ones, like, hey, I'm not going to argue with somebody I love so much. It could be that you stop fixing, arguing, defending, and explaining yourself. It could be very simple, but there's something in you that to me is coming up for your review for you, right? It's not happening to you, but it's for you. So stay curious. If all of these things that are happening out there, stay curious. I wonder about me in this situation and what I could do to improve. In June, it's a 7-month, and this is a month of spiritual study, studying your sacred texts, having some quiet time and unplugging. Mercury will retrograde in Cancer, the sign of the home. So again, pulling from May into June, that there's maybe a home reset. Cancer, you can think about like family. You could think about going to visit a grave. You could think about ancestry trips. You could think about going back to old home sites or cooking old recipes or connecting with your family in a nostalgic way, looking at old photos. Chiron's going to move into Taurus. And so Chiron has been in Aries since 2018. Chiron, yes, represents the wounded healer, but also much more. It represents our soulmates. And so Chiron in Taurus in the physical body, right? And for you, Sagittarius, the physical body is going to be a big theme for June. So this is going to be an opportunity for you to do a health reset. So it could be something that you want to incorporate some fasting or some water or some cleansing. It could be that you're trying to add more nutrients into your diet. But check in with your own. I'm not a doctor, don't take my medical advice, but check in with your health and really give yourself your health priority in the month of June. Yes, and Jupiter entering Leo is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about that coming up. So, Sagittarius, mango salsa. Do you like that with some lime? What new recipes do you want to try that help celebrate the freshness of the spring foods? Here's a lot of options for you. Okay, now we get into the heat of the year. So now we're in July through September, and where I live, it's considered a dearth period. So the flowers have stopped blooming, even though there's some out there for sure. It's a time when the pollinators have less to eat, and they are curious about how they're going to make it through the winter with what they already have, right? So there's a wilderness period here this time of year, and that place is where we grow the most. There's a story in yoga where if Shiva loves you very much, he'll take everything away so that all is left is you and God. So if you get to that place, like bless you, because that is a place of transformation. That is a place to encounter your creator. You're going to need some patience. So pack your patience this quarter and remember that rejection is God's protection. Run away from the things that don't want you. You look for the horse that wants to ride with you, not the one that you have to kick and go and beg and plead. No, no, right? We want to be with the people that are going forward together on the trail. So, your journal prompt, am I living aligned with my highest values and divine timing? Your lives are being shaped this season. July is an 8-month, and what goes out comes back. That figure 8. I see people making big moves, big decisions, big changes, taking risks, doing something different, shaking it up in the 8 months. My group recently read Chasing the Wild Goose, which is a book by Mark Batterson. And he describes the Celtic Christians as defining the Holy Spirit as the wild goose. And I love that. I love that sense of adventure, of following the wild goose, chasing the wild goose. Like, yes, take me on the adventure of life with you. And also that kind of July is also giving those Walt Disney vibes of if you can dream it, you can do it. These outer planets are having a big conversation. The tectonic plates are shifting. Something is really changing and really wanting to work its way through. But it's Also, what I want you to focus on, because this is a big, July could be a really big month for us to deep dive and get into the minutia of the astrology. But if I could pull one thing out for us to look at that's maybe easier to look at, it's the North Node moving from Pisces into Aquarius. And so that shift is going to be there for a year and a half, right? So the North Node in Aquarius, this is pulling us forward into new territory. Aquarius is curious because it's co-ruled by Saturn, which is very modest and structured and predictable and the path ahead, versus its co-ruler Uranus, which is unpredictable. So there's this interesting like new frontier that's happening. And for you, Sagittarius, future-minded communication. So what does that mean? Like, are you developing products that you're going to turn into an app? Or maybe by that point, there's something cooler than an app. Or maybe you're working on an audiobook. Or maybe you're working on something to do with sharing your message and being the great teacher that you are and the great learner that you are, that incorporates tech in a new way that pulls humanity together and forward, like the tribe of humanity. So play with that. In August, we're in a 9-month, a month of integration. So there's endings with the 9 and beginnings with the 1. So of course there's going to be endings and beginnings together. But I want you guys to ignore the distortion. As I'm speaking to myself as well, there's always going to be that element of feeling like chaos and intensity, and there can be overwhelm if we buy into it. This month we have 2 eclipses, one in a fire sign and one in a water sign. And so we will see some environmental things going on having to do with water and fire. You'll see bridges, you'll see volcanoes within water, you'll see pipes bursting, you'll see mold, you'll see a water boil notice, you'll see things that have to do with water and fire. This one has really caught my eye as I've been going through the forecast. The church bazaar is the Sabian symbol for the eclipse in Pisces. To me, that's very revival, the Holy Spirit fire. It feels like a big spiritual moment for a lot of people to either rip off the cover of what's not true, what's not working, or get into the flow of spirit with some group that is working. It feels like a very interesting time. And then Sagittarius, for you guys, there's going to be a shakeup in your very core, your very foundation, your very soul's journey has questions. And maybe it's time for you to have some sort of spiritual group that you're leading. What does that look like, right? What could that mean for you? Maybe it's time for you to consider a pilgrimage, a special spiritual travel moment, or some time off to unplug and just have that desert moment where it's just nothing is really that is important as you and getting in right relationship with your creator. Could be some stuff going on that you're moving, that you're changing your home setting, that you're welcoming people into your home. These themes will tie up and they'll make much more sense for you as you face August, the month of integration. Okay, September is a 1 month and a 1 year. So this is a reset moment. So the eclipses are now behind us, and all we have is the path forward. We've been through the desert, we've been through the heat, and now the spiritual doors are opening mid-September. So yes, there's some intensity to Mercury opposing Neptune and Uranus retrograde. Yes, there's some intensity as Mars is square Saturn. And Mars doesn't like to be in Cancer, and Saturn is in Aries. So there's like where can we bend and not break is how I'm feeling this. And where can we look past the distortion into the truth? Where can we decondition ourselves from lies, right? I think that many people towards the end of September are going to be feeling their spiritual gifts, leaning into their niche areas with their spiritual development, knowing, seeing, feeling metaphysically. I think that they're going to have prophetic dreams and visions. I think that there's going to be just some interesting turning points with spiritual doors for people. People that haven't felt intuitive will all of a sudden be. This is a time to lean in and especially as you have worked on your communication skills all year, now you're going to move that from the physical into the metaphysical. So as the sun enters Libra, Sagittarius, you're going to engage with a collaborative vision. So a collaborative vision, what do I mean by that? I think that you're going to be coming together with different groups of people and getting people kind of on the same wavelength and riding a big momentum wave. I think that you're going to be able to connect the dots between one group and another and make a Venn diagram. And I think that you are just part of this wave of change that's happening in September. It is a reset button, so start from the basics. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. For you, what about some grilled pineapple, right? What summer produce are you really excited about that aligns with the flavors of the season, right? Some fun ideas for you. All right, as we face the end of the year here, the last quarter is about harvest and renewal. So refreshing that your own quiet time and really sinking into what you have learned all year, what tools you have picked up, and letting this be a time of rest and integration. Your support is going to be really with closing things out, closing cycles, that last quarter moon feeling, and leaning into hope, leaning into what's eternal, not temporal. And I want you to make a list of the blessings that you've had so far that you can really celebrate and really pause and celebrate them. And that's what is going to feel like you're successfully done somewhere or with something. What are you tying up? In October, both Venus and Mercury will retrograde, right? And there's the intensity of Mercury squaring Mars and Pluto, and right, and this intensity of Mars opposing Pluto retrograde. October is a 2-month again. So this focus on relationships that you had this theme back in January, right? So there's moments to have this closure and this forgiveness and this wrapping up feeling when it comes to some relationships that we just can't get right, or we have to just stop fighting, right? We have to just stop trying, or we have to keep trying and let the forgiveness be real, really close something that is hurting everybody, right? The retrograde moments here, you want to lean into the re words. So in spiritual development, recovery and redemption. So you are recovering your own soul, but it's not by your own effort, right? It's relaxing into grace and surrendering into God, into your creator. And you are writing your own redemption story. You're writing your own testimony here. You're looking at your life and you're saying, I don't regret the past. I don't wish to shut the door on it, but I am ready to do better and I want to do better, right? Okay, November, it's a reflection of the February creative mojo. So I think you're going to feel good in November. It's for some of you, it's your birthday month, that sense of adventure, that sense of calling, that sense of being connected to the flow. So you've been through some of the desert and that rebirth, that kind of new experience. You've had an opportunity to shift your philosophy, to connect with home and family, to shift career focus. And now you're going to be in touch with what is my desire, my ego, versus where do I get to the end of that and what is my calling, right? So going back to that question, what does your creator call you? What is your identity? What special name do you wear? Mars is going to conjunct Jupiter and the South Node in Leo. So I think we're going to see some endings when it comes to celebrities or people that are esteemed in the public eye, and that it will be the everyday person that becomes esteemed. I think there's going to be a big shift with that influencer feeling. And the South Node, right, it does bring that sense of ending and closure. Leo rules the royals, the royal family. It rules the heart. It rules leadership. And so with Mars and Jupiter there, I think we're either going to see some big superstar moments from unexpected people or some super spreader moments. So make sure your immune system is up to speed here. Be taking care of your health. When you had your health reset month, take that seriously. Work with your structural health, your bones, your teeth, your chiropractic, your muscles, all of that. And just be as healthy as you can possibly be going into November. Okay. And then in December, it's a take it easy type of a month. So some people you need that rest period. Some people need that sense of adventure in order to rest. And I am one of those. Like, I need both of them, but if you can get me out of my element and I can go stay at a friend's Airbnb somewhere, right? If I can just get out, if I can go camping, if I can be in nature, if I can get out of my routine, that's a place for true rest and restoration. So consider that if that's you for November and December. When I'm saying take it easy, your version, right? Your version of what that is. It's a 4-month, so it will mimic March. You'll have a feeling of solid, concrete stability. And excuse me, as the sun moves into Capricorn, you are going to feel that, right, in your values, in your value system. And so um, you're going to have a moment to make a decision to put your values over what you should do, over your responsibilities. So there will be some of you that have caged yourself with responsibilities, that have caged yourself with guilt or shame. And this is when you're coming out of that. Okay, so these are moments where you're not having to write your memoir underground in prison anymore. You're getting to come out of those cages that you have built around yourself and just say, no, I'm going to stick to my values. And that mental freedom, that peace of mind that comes when you put your faith and your values over the things that you're afraid of, not having enough, not making enough, dying alone, like all of the things that people get afraid of, right? We're not all that different from each other. We all have similar fears of feeling so far out and different from each other, but we're really not. Some cozy festive meals, maybe Sagittarius, you want to get a spiced chai latte. I probably wrote that for me because that is one of my favorite drinks is a chai latte. And yeah, check out like the stuffed acorn squash I've got this week. I'm gonna do the apple tart I also bought. These are basically what I'm making this week. I hope you love them. All right, some closing concepts from your friend Tiffany for 2026. Our guiding light in spiritual development is the creator, right? Not the created, not the things, not the planets, not the maps, not the ins and outs of the day-to-day life, but the one who makes it all. The spiritual journey offers this. When we come to the end of ourselves, we return home. So if you have had a negative concept of home growing up, if you've had looking back at your childhood, was home safe, comfortable, a place to be celebrated for who you are, to be loved, then great. Maybe you have an easier time accepting the spiritual home. But if home was not that place for you, this could be a year when you come to terms, forgive, have some closure, and create that new relationship with the real living God that will take you on the journey to your spiritual home, right? It's big stuff that I'm talking about this year. Thanks for your patience and grace with it. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, right? Love your enemies. Loving your enemies turns their hatred into a blessing. And it's your best magic trick, right? Okay, Sagittarius, this is your reminder, your message from Spirit for 2026. You are the seeker. I gave you a hunger for truth. You travel far through thought or land to find meaning. Let your joy and wisdom bring others closer to me. Your gift is vision, spiritual joy, teaching, and an expansion of faith. The mountains are calling, Sagittarius, and you must go. You must live this precious human life to the best of your ability and enjoy the ride, right? Look at creation and say, like, how wonderful this is, and create that within you. I know that many people are not living that pure joy experience. We have to start somewhere. Follow the wild goose, chase the wild goose, go into the mountains, go into the desert willingly, feel all of the range of feelings of having like nothing left but you and God, and experience that depth, that spiritual transformation that's there for you. So thank you again so much. My name is Tiffany. If you would like to grab the Wise Skies calendar, it's at wiseskiescalendar.com. It's a digital astrology calendar. It goes with you through any time zone, and it has descriptions of what the specific transits are each day, and the lunations, of course. Use your code Stormie 2026 to get a nice discount. And we thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a year of adventure where you're having some depth and some beauty and some grace for yourself and others. And if we can support you, please come back to the Stormie Grace channel. We're here for you. So until next time, my friends, namaste.
Hey there, welcome to the locational astrology section of this video. I'm so excited to support you. My name is Helena Woods and I'm a leading locational astrology and astrocartography specialist, traveling full-time around the world, data collecting and testing this information of how to be in the best places at the right times using the power of astrocartography combined with transits and progressions. So if you don't know astrocartography, it's essentially a sub-niche, subdivision within the bigger umbrella that is locational astrology. And it's essentially the astrology of place, the astrology of location. Places have influence, places have power, and I'm on a mission to support people to unlock their natal promise and be in the places that awaken and activate aspects within the birth chart. The most important thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to note when transiting planets are hitting your personal planets. Now in this video, I'm giving general descriptions for each rising sign. However, astrocartography is very personal in that your moon's at a certain degree. Your Venus is not going to be the same Venus that someone else's rising sign is, right? Our planets in our birth chart are in specific zodiac signs at specific degrees in certain parts of the chart. And so the key thing I want you to take away from this whole video is that when you go to an astrocartography line, let's say the moon line, for instance, you want to go to that moon line when a transiting planet like the sun, Venus, or Jupiter is going over your moon, because that's where we're getting the most acceleration, enhancement of being at the right place at the right time. And so I've been doing this in my own life for the last 3 years, traveling the world full time, noting the planets that I would like to receive from. So for example, if you want publicity and acknowledgement and attention, you'd go to your sun line. If you want to launch or promote or even commerce, sales, marketing, socializing with friends, having an astrology meetup, meeting up with people, Mercury lines. If you need some confidence and courage, go to a Mars line. If you're looking for some more knowledge and expansion, seeing more possibilities, that question of where do I need to be expanded in my life? What needs clarity? Go to a Jupiter line. So utilizing and understanding what these planets represent in astrology, knowing their meanings, you can plan trips accordingly to go to those places to get the maximum enhancement of what that planet symbolizes. And also being there at a time when you personally are getting the activation by transits and progressions to your planets. This is where things really take off to a whole other level. The other way that you can get the maximum benefit of these stories, even if you don't travel, is by getting the energy through remote activation. So calling up that friend that lives on the Mercury line when you've got the transit, reaching out to that podcast to do a collaboration on your Jupiter line. Even though you don't live on the Jupiter line, you know a podcast host who lives on your Jupiter line. Reaching out to them when the timing brings it up, okay? Obviously, traveling to these lines and being in these locations is where you're going to get the most maximum benefit of astrocartography, but still, these are important things that you can do that can help you. So let's get into the 2026 travel forecast. Now, the best time to really travel in 2026 will be when Jupiter is direct. And this is between the time frame of March 10th to December 11th. We start 2026 off. We start the year off with Jupiter retrograde, but Jupiter, the planet of travel, knowledge, and expansion, will move direct. On March 10th, Jupiter will station direct, will move direct on March 10th. And so once we get to March 10th and Jupiter's direct, I really love this for all things travel. Note as we get to the end of the year that Jupiter will also retrograde December 12th of 2026. So just some key timeframes to note in your calendar for the year. Now I want to kind of bring up an example of how you can use astrocartography with timing, as I mentioned earlier. In 2026, we have Jupiter in Cancer. If you have any planets in Cancer personally, or Leo, if you have any personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Uranus even, Neptune, outer planets, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, even the nodes, if you have the lunar nodes in Cancer or Leo, This year, if you have any planets in Cancer, this is the year to go to that planetary line that you have that's being transited by Jupiter. Same thing with next year. As we get into next June 30th of 2026, Jupiter will ingress into Leo. If you have any planets in Leo, including the lunar nodes and even the outer planets, if you have any placements in Leo, going to that astrocartography line as Jupiter is hitting it. So for instance, if you have Mars in Leo, or you have the Sun in Leo, or you have Mercury in Leo, going to the Mercury line when Jupiter is hitting it is a really cool way to accelerate things, enhance your life, and get a lot of cool opportunities and expansions and enhancements with that Jupiter transit. So wanted to just mention this right at the top before we get into the rising sign forecast. Look at the planets that you have in your birth chart. If you have anything in Cancer or Leo, this is going to be a major time to travel to those astrocartography lines to get the benefit of the Jupiter transit. So we all have our planets in different zodiac signs and at different degrees. And these planetary lines are scattered across the globe. So this is why astrocartography is so personalized. It's so unique. One person's map, if they were born 15 minutes later, it's a completely different astrocartography map. And so this is why knowing those planets in your birth chart and the degrees and all of that is going to be so important to get this as personalized to you as possible, as well as your planetary configurations. What are the planetary conditions of your sun line? What is the planetary condition of your Mercury line? As an example, I know a ton of people that love living on their Pluto lines. They have strong Plutos in their chart. I love living on my Saturn line. I have a very supported Saturn in my birth chart, enclosed by the benefics. We got a Venus square, we got a Jupiter trine. So this is why going a bit deeper into understanding planetary condition is really important if you're going to be making a serious move, like relocating to an astrocartography line. Knowing your birth chart and your planetary condition is so key to knowing should you move there or should you not. And I want to make sure I advise caution and encourage you to either book with a locational astrology specialist or learn how to read your chart yourself before you spend a massive amount of money on moving, because moving is expensive. Trust me, I do it every year because of my husband's job in France. And so I understand moving is a lot. So before you move, just make sure you're looking at everything. All right, let's get started. Sag risings, sun lines, Sagittarius risings are going to be the ideal places for you to make a trip or a travel plans to. With Leo in your 9th whole sign house of foreign cultures, foreign lands, and long distance travel. Ideal times to travel this year would be between July 23rd and August 23rd, Leo season. Jupiter lines are also going to be places in the world that you feel really drawn to and at home in. Maybe you feel a sense of comfort, familiarity, or foundations, or like maybe there's some sort of family connections that you have in these parts of the world where you have your Jupiter lines. An ideal time period to venture to your Jupiter line, Sag risings, would be between the time period of February 11th to March 2nd this year. This year, Jupiter will enter your house of travel and foreign cultures and foreign lands starting on June 30th. So big deal for you, Sag rising people. This is a massive deal for you. Starting June 30th of this year, if you get an opportunity, an invitation, if a friend reaches out to you and wants you to come visit her, if you have a dream to go to that one random country in the world and you want to go see it, this is your year starting June 30th for the rest of 2026. Book the flight, book the ticket, get on the plane, get on the train and go, Sag risings. This is your year to travel and take advantage of any opportunities to expand your mind, to grow, to get into magic, philosophy, learn that foreign language, and go travel abroad. Starting June 30th. Now, Jupiter will enter your house of travel, June 30th, until December 11th. So, wait, what is that? Yeah, June 30th to the end of the year. So take full advantage of all the travel opportunities and invitations that come your way. The reason I hesitated for a minute is because Jupiter is going to station retrograde once we get to December 11th. And so just take full advantage of the time for travel when Jupiter is direct. And that is between June 30th and December 11th this year of 2026 for you, Sag risings. Now, some other information, Venus will also be traveling through your third house of local travel and local short distance travel. And this will be happening between January 17th this year and February 10th. So you might want to make like a trip or go on a road trip or go on find a little excursion or something short distanced. If you have any Aquarius placements, Sag risings, go to those astrocartography lines during this time period of January 17th and February 10th. So for instance, if your moon's in Aquarius, if you have your Mercury in Aquarius, right? If you have your Mars in Aquarius, go to those astrocartography lines that are associated with those planets during the time period of January 17th and February 10th. I hope that this information supported you and helped you in planning your travels this year in 2026. And so if you want to learn more about this, you can check out my website at helenawoods.com and also get my free astrocartography cheat sheet. You can join my astrocartography newsletter, which is all free, at helenawoods.com/cheat sheet. All this to say though, this is going to be an amazing year of travel. I'm really excited for everyone to be taking advantage of Jupiter in Cancer and Uranus in Gemini. Have a magical day. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here.